memory came from actually the few days leading up to the regional competition, and as we were told a few days earlier, we're losing all of our network equipment for the actual competition setup, and we were still playing around with the iPhones, trying to properly firewall them, etc. So back at one of our houses, I actually set up an emulated call manager on GNS3 on my laptop and hooked it into the ESX network to register VMs with soft phones and still be able to play with the firewalls.
I know Cisco UC engineers that can't do that stuff.
So to go to your moving mouse story, one of the competitions we were at, I noticed my mouse was moving, but it was on one of the machines that was out of scope for the red team to attack. And so we started freaking out, and we're like calling the white team, and they're like running their judging team in to come check it out, and they're getting like mad and running into the red team room like, what are you guys doing? This is out of scope. Get off this machine. And eventually someone called one of the IT people from the college, and they end up telling us, oh, that's a public machine that isn't supposed to lock, but our policy requires it to have a password. So we put a program on to move the mouse every once in a while so it wouldn't lock.
I think one of my favorite moments is that after we secure a box, like, we don't even have to worry about it just because our infrastructure team is so good that they block everything anyway. So I mean, we put up firewalls on all our systems, and it doesn't even matter because it doesn't get to it anyway. So like our infrastructure team was so good that like it really facilitated that we had the fewest hacks, and that we could do the magic. And speaking of magic, like, so one of the injects was that we had to do an entire Active Directory like change. So it's one directory to another directory. We didn't do that. We just DNS magic and says, hey, this is the actual domain name now. So this is where you go to for it. And like just knowing that kind of stuff, that black magic stuff, that it's really like the whole essence of the CCDC, like.
Yeah, and making the most of what you have, like Davey running an ASA as a node on a network behind the IP tables firewall. It's running off of a laptop that's getting routed from the switch back into the switch after it hits the laptop, because that was the most effective solution.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of a Cisco background. I've worked with ASAs a little bit. I really don't like them. At the regional and the national competition, we got ASAs at both of them. And like Jeff just said, I just got fed up with them, so I took them out of the front of our network, put them behind the switch, put a laptop in front of the switch, acting as our border firewall, which was awesome. It just gave us so much more control over what we were doing with our network. Let us run monitoring on it without even having to do like a span port or anything. And so just saying basically, fuck you, Cisco, I found something better. And it being a laptop with only one Ethernet port and figuring out how to make that work, that was awesome.
All right, I got two favorite memories. One was the 24-hour competition. It was actually 36 hours, a 3-hour break for dinner the first night. That killed a lot of teams. It killed a lot of teams. We had it with our with Peter Springer, who was there that year, the team captain, and his strict military discipline. Okay, you three go down for this period of time. You guys wake up 3 hours later. You get relieved, and that was a lot of fun. Having to stay up an extra hour or two and having to really manage your time. You could say, okay, well, I'm going to stay up an extra hour, but I'm going to lose an hour of sleep, and I'm only sleeping 2 hours in this block, and then I got 3 hours in the next block, so I'm only getting 5. Am I going to be able to make it through the entire competition like that? Whereas some other teams decided that beer was going to help them stay awake the entire competition, and were nearly disqualified for throwing fights with each other. So that was my first favorite memory. Second one was that year at Nationals. We had a Solaris box. It was our mail server. We migrated everything off of it. We We had all the files on a BSD server that was clean. We installed it right before then. And we get all the IPF rules in, and you have to reboot for the IPF rules to take effect. Reboot never comes back. Solaris or Sun hacked us. Sun was the best red team member that year. It was a patch that was fixed in Workstation and OpenBSD, but not Solaris. Yeah, Solaris Workstation, Open Solaris, but not Solaris Server. Because why do you need? Yeah, your critical infrastructure doesn't need patch. And it turns out the red team that year didn't even touch that box because they didn't have Solaris shellcode. So go figure.
Joe Luna wants to say something.
So being on the red team, there's a lot of favorite moments, but there's so many random things that you hear when you're walking around, and you kind of mingle with the blue teams. One of my favorite things of the last regional competition was, I forget which blue team it was, but we're talking to the guy that was managing the ESX box, and he said, yeah, I was the only guy on our team that was working with VMware, so I thought it was kind of odd that there were 2 console connections. So if you work with VMware, you kind of problems for them.
Yeah, our team actually freaked out about that because we knew what that indicated, and one person saw 2, and then he just freaked out like, who else is there? Who else is there? So.
All right. So does anyone have any questions for us? I know we were supposed to.
Did you guys swap back and forth between blue and red like 1 year?
No, the blue.
As a student, you're not allowed to be on the red team at all. Then the blue team, except for, you have to be a full-time student. The regulation is you have to be a full-time student. You cannot be more than 20 hours a week in industry to be on a blue team. If you don't qualify for that, you qualify for red team. It's the way we read it, so causes on the red team. There's no swapping back and forth. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the question was, can you... Oh, yeah.
Not a problem. Black team members are infrastructure. They basically set up the servers, PCs, routers, switches, firewalls, and put the architecture together. They're also in charge of the scoring engine for services. The white team members are the judges. There will be a white team member in each of the rooms or pods with the students in case there's ever a malfunction or a problem. They will raise that to the black team members. They are also in charge of all of the scoring. They are also in charge of all of the business injects that are given to the blue teams. The blue teams, of course, are the student teams that compete, and the red teams are the industry professionals that try to attempt the break-ins on each of the individual teams. Did that answer? What about gold? Excuse me. Thank you very much. The gold team, and this is different from region to regional and state to state. In the Western region, the gold team are the overall administrators who are in charge of setting up the facilities management, getting the food, getting hotel accommodations, the logistics people. Where do you guys host Western region? It is hosted on the campus of Cal Poly Pomona in the Bronco Student Center and at Kellogg West where we have our receptions. We would love to rotate. Unfortunately, there's not been a lot of other school support. There's been a lot of interest from students from other schools, but not a lot of faculty support from other schools.
Self-serving question, because at SAIC we're doing some of the gaming. Do you guys want to see better visualization of scores, actual points, or do you want to see rankings?
Yes.
Because, there's one of the things, knowing that you're 12,000 points in the lead is great. It's also demoralizing the team.
Exactly, and that is the huge debate.
Your team too, do you care?
Right, that is the huge debate between...
badly, you know you're doing badly because when you get your service checks and you keep seeing, let's face it, you guys do tell us, like, hey, this is down just so we know that it's not scoring outside. If I've been sitting here for like 4 hours and I know that this stuff's been down and I know we're not getting in injects, I know we're probably not going to be doing that high.
It's not T-ball anymore. It's not like you go and participate and everybody gets a participation trophy. You know, you go and show up, and it's a competition. It's not.
So you want to see actual numbers?
Yes, yeah.
Because I'm hearing from organizers they don't.
Yeah,
Organizers
as the
don't.
coach, I'm vehemently against live scores because and I will defend that to the
I
death.
agree.
I picked up from some of the things. Fewest successful hacks. That would be useful to know. Like what
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, there are certain statistics that you can show that don't really play into the score directly. Like you can kind of infer things about the score from there, but yeah, at the Nationals, they have 3 different categories, and they tell you the ranking for each of the different categories, the top 3 teams. Yeah, just to quickly wrap up, but yeah, some of the teams, when they don't know the score, they think they're doing more poorly than they actually are. Like one of the teams actually dropped out of the last regional. Or maybe it was the regional before. Yeah, they were in.
They were close to taking second.
They were 50 points away or something.
They literally stopped and installed Windows 95 on all of their machines because they were bored.
But imagine the teams that were actually doing poorly that would have dropped out the day before that. So
Okay, what's the right there question there?
Well, I'm just going to bring the national point of view for why we don't give scores minute to minute. Red team activity is specifically designed to be equal across all teams. Right. And so if I exploit team A with a certain exploit, I have to try that same thing against all the other teams. There's a time lag associated with everything happening and bringing those scores in. The automatic scoring engine, it'll tell you if your service is up or not. It'll tell you when you're passing service level agreements. But if I hand you a Cisco Pix and say, here's an inject in an hour, the last company said this would solve all their problems, and now will solve all our problems, it takes us a while to score that against all the teams and still try and run a competition. So there are time lags on various score pieces. I will say this, not between first and second, but between second and third in the Nationals, it's been decided once by 1 point out of over 5,000. Oh my God. It took 3 audits.
Question in the back.
We had a question in the back here.
So real-time scoring has issues.
Okay.
yeah,
All right,
I agree with that. Thank you very much.
all right, yeah, so let's get this question here, please. We did documentation. We have probably over, I don't know, how many, yeah, we have huge, we use a file sharing service. We write our own documentation for how to set up different services, how to, different links and everything like that. So luckily we have 4 people going into this competition this year that were in the previous year. But a lot of it's just documentation and knowledge passing like that.
We don't have anything nearly as set up or prepared as documentation, actually. We just have people that return every year that are willing to spend time to teach others. And we hold student meetings throughout the year to talk about, things that we learned.
That as well. I mean, I think we covered that we do practices and everything. We have the returning or the previous year's members that help out with that practice. And then they, I guess, do like a mentorship style thing where they say, hey, this is what you do.
All right, we're going to run out of time. Cause, what do you got?
So you guys said you did get hacked, right?
Yeah, we mentioned you by name.
Yes, Babyface hacked us.
Any more questions from this side of the room?
Not only did he get called Babyface by Business Week, but he got called Babyface at Blackhat.
All right, so in the front here.